Our pastor Jeannie has been doing sermon series on unraveled lives and how God brings us out of despair and knits our lives back together. This seemed appropriate for the time of COVID-19. It is a time when our lives have become unraveled with social distancing, with fear and uncertainty. She called for a hula hoop, but found none. I have many scraps, as you can see behind me. And one night I had a dream of what to do with those scraps. Make an art quilt or a banner. It was to represent God's world and his creative energy, and a cross to represent the redemption God provides. It was to be numerous pieces stitched together to form a single piece. In the original sermon series, it called for weaving together scraps. But I have taken needle and thread and scraps and sewn them together into a finished product. God takes the scraps of our lives and weaves them into something beautiful. Each Sunday, I added scraps to the evolving picture of his world to illustrate God's goodness. The sermon series is done. The picture of his world is finished. However, I have not finished because God never finishes his creative power. As I contemplated where each piece should go and sewed them into place, it was a spiritual experience. I thought of all the times in my life that had come unraveled. God took those shattered pieces and put them back together. Here are just a few. Hopefully they'll remind you of some of those times your lives have become unraveled. And because of our humanness and our need to control, unraveling comes with a lot of pain. When I was 4, my mother walked out of the door and was gone forever. My life became unraveled, but my earthly father and my heavenly Father stitched my shattered life together with the power of love. When I was 13, my youthful exuberance was stopped when the doctor said, "You will die if you do not stay in bed under all circumstances." From the corner of the room where everybody did their things, I lay in my bed wishing to be running and playing. When I was to go someplace, my earthly Father carried me. And in my despair, my heavenly Father carried me emotionally. And my little dog Tux laid by my side quietly. When I was 26, a whirling windstorm, a tornado, roared through our student housing at Kansas State University. And in an instant, our lives became unraveled and disrupted. But God and our friends helped weave our lives back together. And we still get together with those friends. When I was 32, I was told my tiny daughter would never learn or be a contributing member of society. Our lives were broken into pieces, and only with the help of God and his earthly servants was it glued back together. I marveled in gratitude at the gift when our daughter graduated from college and traveled the world. When I was 40, my studies were disrupted by the heat of flames, and with the help of God, I realized my perceptions about fire were all wrong. And I changed. God showed me nature's resilience. When I was 60 and anticipated retirement, God was not done with me yet. The flames of another fire caused evacuations, and our lives were turned upside down. But every day I walked in the woods and I saw renewal and realized God was stitching it all back together. And when I was 75, I lived with physical pain. But God's servants on earth were able to surgically remove the source, and pain miraculously went away. And when I was 80, I learned a new phrase: social distancing, because of the fear of a tiny and deadly virus called COVID-19. Our lives have been disrupted. Today we are separated from family and friends, but I know that God will stitch our lives back together because He has shown me His power so many other times when my life seemed beyond repair. As I sewed each piece, I remembered all the stories of how He has taken the lives of others and woven them back together. Moses, when he was placed in the basket on the river. The slaves of Egypt as they wandered in the wilderness. Mary and Joseph as they fled to Egypt. For the countless ones He healed. Mary Magdalene, the woman at the well, the woman who He hemorrhaged, the crippled man at the pool of Bethsaida, the blind man at the gates of Jericho, and so many more. Symbolic of God taking the scraps of our lives and stitching them back together, I have taken thread and needle and woven the scraps into a quilt or tapestry of God's world. The pieces are not regular, but as they were, clipped and discarded and uneven. It represents God's creation in the world for us as individuals, a tapestry of light and dark, wind and sun, beauty and ugliness, togetherness and loneliness, compassion and giving. But most of all, it represents the deep love and acceptance of the Almighty. The cross and the dove remind us He dwells over all creation. The ragged edge is left unbound to remind us He is not done yet. Creation goes on, and in our time of disruption and unexpected events, He will help us stitch our lives back together. They may not be the same, but we will have all learned. All shall be well.